Perfect. Um, so at this moment, my friends, I'm not gonna hold you any longer. I have the pleasure to introduce our guest speaker and my dear friend Ann. Ann wears many hats, guys, from real estate investor, single family home, multifamily entrepreneur, and she is our ADPI Regional Director for Team Asia Pacific. Again, you can talk to Ann about anything and everything. So I am very happy she's here with us. Welcome, Ann. And I'm not gonna hold anymore. She has so much to share with us. So without further ado, Ann, the floor is yours. Welcome, friend.
Thank you so much, Ari. I appreciate the kind words. And as you list all the things I'm involved in, all I feel is tired. That's just the truth. I definitely do a lot, wear multiple hats. But today, I'm very excited to be on here, and this is very interesting for me because this is a role I normally don't play, where I get to share kind of some of my projects. And so today, I get to share with this group what I have going on with what we call additive construction, specifically 3D concrete printing. And so, can everyone see my slide? Give me a thumbs up. All right, awesome. Okay, so if you have, oh boy, why is my slides not moving now?
I feel you, friend.
There we go. All right, so if any of you are involved in the construction industry in any capacity, whether it be residential, commercial, development, essentially a lot of what you're going to be feeling is this. So it's very painful. There's a lot of pain points across the board. You hear things like it's expensive, there's so many delays, labor shortages, supply chain disruptions, have labor shortages. There's just so many things across that board that make overall construction very painful today. And so what I want to suggest to you is our solution to that problem, and that solution is technology, specifically 3D concrete printing. And so before I share the next slide, I kind of just want to get everybody's attention in that right now, 3D printing, right? If you think about it, most people imagine a small like house printer, or like a traditional printer, like an HP printer, right? Either in the office or in a home, and it's usually printing with plastics or resin or some sort of material like that. And it's usually to print like parts, supplies, and people use it for hobbies or even create small businesses and stuff like that. What I'm going to share with you today is imagine that printer scaled up or supersized, and it looks more like this. Okay, so just blow that up. What you're seeing in front of you is the smallest printer. So the company that I represent is Mudbots. They're headquartered out of Utah. And so this is the smallest printer. It's 15 by 15. And so what you're seeing in front of you is you see the trusses, right? The frame. And then in the middle is that gantry. So can you see my cursor? This is the gantry, and there's the nozzle right here on the bottom. And see this hose? That's where the concrete passes through, and this whole area here is the actual print area. And so this technology, the smallest, like I said, is 15 by 15. The largest printer is 100 by 100, and so we can literally print something as small as a tiny home or as large as a 10,000 square foot warehouse. Right? And so this is what the technology looks like. But being able to stand here and just describe it really doesn't do it justice. So I actually have a video for you to show you actually how it works.
Wow.
There we go. So that was a time lapse video, and I think what I hope you got away from that is how much work happens simultaneously. And so this is the actual print. So you saw them starting from the ground, right? And it was a continuous motion, and that goes continuously up until 8 feet, so nonstop. And while the printer is printing, you saw all the people moving around, doing stuff, and it really collapses the time when it comes to the process of construction. And so all the prints are actually done in a tent. So we can print in any condition. So like rain, shine, hail, snow. Uh, because the printers are housed in a tent, they're able to continue the project regardless of weather. And so what you see is a cross section, right? But this wall, um, what you may have saw too in the video is how electrical and plumbing. Now, when we go to traditional construction, right, a lot of the electrical plumbing, when you think of the order process of construction, it usually comes later, right? First, someone comes in, does the foundation, then someone comes in to do the walls, and then later, you wait, and then the electrical comes in, then the plumbing. It's all in a specific order. With additive construction, with 3D concrete printing, while the printer is printing, all of that stuff is actually happening simultaneously. So the electrical plumbing, and it really just, when it comes to the length of time to do construction, that's what it is in our process that allows us to bring it down and make things go faster. So this is a picture of the actual tiny home that you saw being printed. This is actually held at the training facility over in Utah. Anybody with the printer, like they're required to go through a training process, and it's all happening here at the facility. And what they do is literally for 5 weeks, they just print a house, break it down, print a house just to get to proficiency with not only with the printer, but specifically to get to quality. With Mudbots, their number one criteria is quality, and they do not compromise on that. And so the folks who go there for the training, that's what they're doing is it's just they're learning how to use the equipment. They're building tiny homes, or I should say printing tiny homes, and they're just getting down the process and focusing on specifically on quality. And so, what I want to share with you is this tiny house was printed in one day with $13,000 in raw material, with the windows and frames already set. And then it takes 2 weeks to do the interior finishes, right? So because the printer itself, right, it doesn't print toilets or furniture or anything like that. So it's still very much like a hybrid where you still need a lot of aspects of traditional construction to finish out the project. But again, when you think about construction and the process and how it works, you can see how this technology can really affect change, not only in terms of supply, but in terms of labor and overall cost. And so that's kind of what I want to break down a little bit more, the differences between traditional construction and additive construction. And so if you've done any project, odds are you heard that at the end of the day, it comes down to three things, right? Speed, cost, quality. And usually in any project, they'll tell you you could usually only get two out of the three. Hardly ever will you get all three. But I can tell you with 3D concrete printing, not only is it possible, it's actually proven that they could hit all three. It is faster, it is better, it is cheaper. Faster because, as I shared with you, with traditional construction, there is a very specific process and when you actually put in the different trades. Whereas with the 3D concrete printing, it all happens simultaneously. And we all know in this game, time is money. The other aspect of it is when it's faster because you're not having to source a lot of what delays construction too is the supplies. Here, when we talk about better, we're talking about using concrete, and it's not concrete that's already pre-mixed. It's actually we take raw materials, and we right now we've talked a lot about the printer, but what I'm going to share with you is there's also a batch plan. So a batch plan is where the concrete gets mixed, and so we focus on working with raw material and putting it in the mix. And this batch plan, by the way, has a brain. So it's driven by AI technology. When a certain house, right, requires a certain level of strength using the concrete, it actually gets programmed whatever level of strength. So the term we use is PSI. So whatever level of PSI is required for the project, that is programmed into the batch plan. And then literally the person on the ground is just pouring the cement, pouring the lime, pouring the aggregate. And then the machine itself, the batch plan, is doing the mixing, and it literally extrudes the concrete, the level of concrete that's needed on demand. Also, that's really cool with this batch plant is that it has sensors. So it measures temperature, it measures humidity, all the things that impact the quality of the concrete, right? And so again, when we talk about, how does 3D concrete printing versus traditional, why is it better? Well, it's better because with traditional construction using lumber, most of that lumber we have to wait for, right? And we all know since COVID, like supply chain has just been really difficult, right? We still haven't really fully recovered. And so having to wait for the lumber, having to wait for those 4x4s, like all those things that delay a project. Whereas with this technology, it's literally on demand. You get those raw materials, and again, the raw materials, cement, lime, these are things that you could source at like a Home Depot or a general store and not have to wait for like that big bulk supply. Um, it's also better because it's sustainable, right? With traditional construction, you'll find even if you're using concrete as part of your construction process, if you look at a job site, often what you see is a lot of excess, right? Because you're ordering in bulk, you don't necessarily know how much you'll need, so there's usually excess. And then even what the stuff that you do use, it just gets thrown in the landfill. With 3D concrete printing, you literally only print what you need. It's also more durable, right? When we talk about concrete, it's fireproof, mold proof, water resistant, all of those things that make it a much durable product compared to the traditional way of doing construction. And then cheaper. Bottom line, if you want to get the cost of construction down, you have to be able to affect supply and labor. Those are the two main factors. And I think I've already shared with you some of the things that are processed that where we're changing the game on supply, right? Because we're using it there on demand. We're not having to wait to purchase all these other things and for it to arrive. So there's savings there on the material. It's also savings on the labor. With traditional construction, usually when you're building with drywall, right? There's several different trades. You have the person who is, the carpenter, the masonry. I think the total is seven different trades that you need in order to use traditional construction. With additive construction, it's one. It's that printer, and it does all the work and it's continuous, right? So again, when it comes to how do I affect change on the cost of construction, it comes down to what can I do to affect change with supply and with labor. And I think you see here with the 3D concrete printing, it does all of that in spades. And so when we talk about the savings, I mean, we're not talking small. Stateside, they're proving 70% difference in savings for the cost of construction compared to tradition with 3D concrete printing in comparison to the traditional methods of construction stateside. So the next question I'm going to share another video with you. This one is where people always ask, well, okay, I get it, concrete. Well, how strong is it actually? Well, let the video tell you or show you.
I keep hitting the same spot, it's gonna go through. There's no comparison. Yeah.
That's how strong it is. And as I shared with that batch plant, however strong the project requires, we can make it because the magic is two parts. It's in the chemistry, which that's what Mudbots has at their headquarters. They have their chemist online. So if the state of Florida says we need 5,000 psi, or the state of Minnesota says we need 3,000 psi, whichever market requires whatever level, the chemist at Mudbots do their magic, and then that whatever that ratio is, whatever that formula is, it gets programmed into the batch plant, again, AI driven, to help reduce the human error. And that's how we're able to meet all of that. And as you can see, as in with this video, even commercial, if you were to go to Home Depot or Lowe's and pick up some, cement blocks, and you compare that to the strength of what Mudbots produces, you can see the comparison. So where am I at? So I'm actually out of Guam. This is actually where I'm born and raised and where I live now. And so we're bringing this technology here to this market because here on Guam, again, born and raised here, so this is kind of where my heart is. But our challenge with affordable housing is really at crisis level. And so, and because we're a small island, remote from a lot of other things, where we have to literally import just about everything, which increased our costs. We even have to import labor. And so that's why we're using this technology as a solution to this market. And the way that I'm going to showcase this is, so we actually have a pilot program. It's going to be called Operation Patriot's Place, where we're building a tiny home for homeless veterans. I don't know if this was shared, but I'm actually an Army reservist. My wife is retired Army active duty after 22 years. And so, of course, having and for me, it's been almost 21 years in service. And so my career as a military service member has been defined by the war on terrorism, with, rotations through Operation Enduring Freedom, Operation Iraqi Freedom, in fact, about 7 between my wife and I. And so when I moved to Guam and I was trying to get integrated into the community, I came across this local nonprofit called Got Your 671, 671 being the area code for the island. And so this was actually their project. They've been trying to do the tiny homes for their homeless vets. But unfortunately, they ran into a lot of issues themselves, right? Again, cost of supply, even labor. There's a lot of things that challenged them. And so when they shared with me what they had going on, and I knew I had access to this technology, I was kind of like, you know what? Let's collaborate and work together. And so that's the program we're doing. I'm going to share with you the design that we have. So currently, where we are today, is we are in the design phase, specifically where it's going through structural engineering. So we have a local structural engineer who is working with our designs to make sure we're getting ready for the permit process. So what you're seeing is it's very simple, right? Because it's a tiny home. But one of the things I want to highlight that we are doing differently, here's a little more up close, is to the right image, you see that we're trying to design the roof so that they're slanted. Here in Guam, there's only 2 temperatures. It's rain or shine, or 2 weather conditions. But we do get a lot of sun. And so why not design the roof so that we could put solar panels and help reduce the cost of utilities, right? Because at the end of the day, for us, it's not just about affordable housing, it's about affordable living, right? Does it make sense to buy a house only to that house own you because of the cost, right? So those are the things that we are thinking. On the left screen back here, that you probably are like, what is that? It is kind of like a reservoir. So on Guam, we get on average over about 84 inches of rain per year. So this is happening year after year. Why not design a way where we could capture that water and use it to benefit the house? Because it can serve 2 purposes. One, it will capture the rain that's already happening, and now you can use that as emergency water, right? Like the island just experienced a typhoon. We're actually going through a tropical storm right now. So that's where people get very front of mind of, okay, need to stock up on water. What am I going to use to wash dishes? That kind of thing. The other purpose it serves is, if it can serve as a what do you call it? I forget what the term is, but basically when the sun hits that, it keeps, so instead of heating up the house, it's heating up the water. So it helps keep the temperature in the home cooler. So again, I share that because from a company, I want to share that, we're very focused not just on addressing the affordable housing in terms of the construction, but because with the technology we have freedom of design, we can literally think of things that we wouldn't have thought so before because it was either cost prohibitive or physically, laborious. So now though, with the technology, we can imagine, we can design, we can integrate these things that make it so that not only are we doing it at a price that's affordable or economical, but it can serve more than just a place to live. And there's so many more applications. I think you heard me say freedom of design. And right now, well, to date, we've been talking about housing. But with this technology, there's so many more applications. So what you're going to see now is just all the different ways that you can apply it. Infrastructure is a really big thing. If you get into development or in construction, a lot of what you'll find or hear is the grumblings on the cost of infrastructure. So putting in that plumbing, putting things where you have to excavate and thinking about drainage. If you live in places like Guam or Florida, anywhere that gets a serious amount of water, that's usually a very big consideration. I could tell you, even in Colorado, I have properties in Colorado, and because of the amount of rain, and it's like flooding is an issue, and it affects foundation. And if you've owned a property, if you have any foundational issues, that's usually the most significant cost to the property. And so these are things that the technology can help with in terms of reducing the cost. So here, just again, some images, because again, when you think about this technology and you're like, yes, you can imagine, it's one thing to try to imagine, but if you've never seen it before, it's hard, right? So that's why I'm just sharing a whole bunch of photos to give you ideas of what the printers can do. Fences, retaining walls, stairs, usually to build all these things. I mean, here on Guam, if you wanted to build a concrete fence, I mean, you're looking at tens of thousands of dollars. And usually they just look like this, just stacked up and across the board. But now with this technology, we can design and print a fence at significantly less savings. Walls. So what you're seeing here is they're showing you how to you could, because of the way that the printer works, you can install electrical lights. So these are LED lights that you're seeing installed in the wall that they built. Different stairs, benches. See all these designs? These designs, if you tried to do this with traditional construction means, it'd be really hard. You think about the amount of not just supplies you would have to go through to get, to carve it in this way, but the level of skill and then the time. But in this case, with the technology, you literally come up with the design on the computer, so it's software driven, you upload, and then you press print. All this 3D printed. Conference table. So again, to date, we've been talking about housing, we've been talking about infrastructure, but here's a conference table. You could just make it as the base. So many applications, so many different uses. And I think what I really want you to take away from all of this is that literally whatever you can imagine, whatever problem you have to solve it, this technology can help be that solution. Even letters, cost of letters. So if you own a commercial building or, with office space or like a community and you want to design what we call monument letters, that too is very costly. But again, with this technology, it really helps reduce that cost, and now you're able to do more. So with when we started this presentation, I was talking a lot about the pain points, right? Expensive, wasteful, labor shortages, supply chain issues, all of that stuff. But with this technology, it really is So a lot of people say, oh, it's the future of construction. And I'm here to tell you that, yes, I can see that. But I know we're still kind of in the early stages, but this technology isn't being driven just by our needs here on Earth. If you're familiar with the things that we're trying to do in space to become a spacefaring nation, a lot of this technology is being designed so that, we're not going to be shipping lumber or cement from Earth to Mars, right? We're trying to find ways where if we send a printer, you can get the printer and then you could just print whatever it is you need with whatever is there on ground. So because that is the problem that's being solved at this level, right? Literally in space, a lot of the benefits of what they're learning is applying to what we're doing today. And so, this isn't hey, this is really cool. No, this is very real. This is happening all across the globe right now, and it's happening very rapidly. So, you may have come across it. Some people tell me, "Oh yeah, I think I saw that on YouTube," and they almost think it's fake news. And I tell them, no, it's very real. And it's still very early. And when you look at numbers, right? So I'm an entrepreneur. When I think about markets and investing, I think about the potential of the market to grow. And if you look, so when you think of 3D printing, it falls under the category of additive manufacturing. Within additive manufacturing, you have that subsegment of additive construction, where it's specifically just like constructing houses. Of all the things that you can use 3D printing for, the construction market is the one that's growing the fastest. And so if and you don't even have to understand that to know. I think if you are just in real estate in general and you understand projects and the fact that affordable housing is a global issue, I think you got to already see and have an appreciation for what this technology can do. And so my hope in getting involved in this is not only helping solve the problem for here on Guam, but I'm here on this platform sharing because this is really the future I want, where construction is talking about faster, better, cheaper. We're doing things that are sustainable. We're not having to import things from all across the globe using, fuel and all our natural resources. And so that is it for me. Hopefully, I gave you a good snapshot of what this technology is, more importantly, how it works, as well as the different applications that you can utilize it for. And so this is actually my contact page. So if that QR code will actually send you straight to my LinkedIn page. And so I'm Ann Dela Cruz with Starsand Technologies, and we are building possibilities. And so with that, I'll turn it back over to you, Ari.
Oh, sorry, I was muted. That is so awesome. Oh my goodness. I remember back in the day that I was printing a little pencil holder, and now you can print a house. Okay.
Yeah,
This
it's
is
very real.
so, oh my goodness. Thank you. And this was a great presentation. Thank you so much. Such an eye opener. I remember we have talked so much about it, but it's my first time actually seeing this presentation. Is wow. Like, yeah. This is amazing. Well, friends, this is our time to ask questions. Please do not jump all at once. No, I'm joking. Let's if you have a question, please raise your hand. You can also type it in the chat, and then I will call you. You can either if you can come and read your question, or we can also read it for you. So we have about 10 minutes, 15 minutes to do that. I'm not able to see the chat, Alex, but if you can, oh yeah, I think I see it. So we have Wei, do you want to read your question? And again, if you want to raise your hand, I can also see that, and then I'll call on you.
Yes, so I'm curious. Sorry, I got distracted during the presentation, my little one. I didn't know if it was mentioned, but how about the safety issues regarding labor, and how much safer is it than traditional constructions? Because
Yeah. That's a great question, Wei. Thank you. Yeah, no, it's I mean, I don't have specific numbers, like I couldn't tell you if it's like 30% safer or anything like that. But when you think of a project, right? So put yourself at a job site. And the difference between traditional construction is the average job site usually has anywhere between 7 people on the job at any given time doing, whatever it is they're doing. With 3D concrete printing, it's maybe 3, 4 people, depending on the size of project. So if you had the same project and you had traditional construction with 7 to 10 people on the job site versus a 3D concrete printing where it's half the size. So when you just remove the human error aspect of construction, in my mind, it's already safer, right? There's so many things that go with that. Again, I don't have percentages that I can offer you, but I want to kind of put that frame of what it would look like at a traditional job site versus 3D concrete printing. And I think with those elements in play, you could see that it is safer because the printer is actually doing most of the heavy lifting. So in traditional construction, it's very labor intensive, right? Like especially if it's concrete, cement, like people are moving that's heavy, right? And if you're doing it all the day, you can imagine the type of injuries people could have. With 3D concrete printing, it's not that, right? You literally hit print and you're monitoring. So when you saw that video, the first video where I showed you how the printer works, you could see that no one was doing any heavy lifting, right? They were just literally like monitoring the printer doing its thing or installing electrical. That's a lot of what's happening versus what you would see at a traditional construction site with, all sorts of heavy equipment, cranes, all that stuff. Very different look.
So what would you say it's going to be the worst scenario? Like the concrete wall fall? The most dangerous thing that would happen on that construction side or 3D printing construction side?
I mean, so right now, when we're testing strength, right, strength of the printer, strength of the cement, I mean, it's been proven that even in earthquake places that have earthquakes, that the cement and the concrete withstands that. So there's nothing wrong. There's nothing about the technology, in terms of what it's printing in terms of safety. A lot of what the industry and when I say industry, I'm saying like 3D concrete printing, additive construction, that they're facing to get more into mass market, if you will. It's really political will, the willingness of a local market to adopt the technology. Because again, there's no building codes, right? This is relatively new, but it's not untested. It's proven and it's happening all over the world, but it's getting it to a specific local area and going through the process that they have for meeting building code. That's what everyone is focused in right now. But again, it's not the technology itself.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. We have Dane. I think he was asking a question along those lines about building code. Yeah.
Yeah.
She just answered it. I was like, oh, she just read the question and incorporated.
Like,
That's awesome. I was like, wow, that's really good.
Yeah, so what I will share is there are national codes. So the US actually, so there are international building codes and there are national US national codes already in place. But at the end of the day, if I'm a consumer, right, and I have a project, I'm not referring to national or international codes. I have to go through the permitting process at the local level, the regional level, and it's at that level that most of the building codes haven't been put in place.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Then we have Winnie. She has her hands raised.
Sorry, Anne, you kind of answered the question. My question, you kind of answered it, but I was gonna say, it sounds like it sounds so perfect, but that's what I was wondering your like main challenges, and you said like it's at the local level, and it's the political will to like put it into place that's really the holdup right now. Like, are there any other like barriers to bringing this to market that you're finding?
Yeah, so thank you for that. So there's two parts. So the two questions I get to anyone I talk to is one, will it meet building code, right? So we've already talked about, and to break that down a little bit more, what that comes down to is the structural engineer. So I share with you that we have our designs right now. We're giving it to the structural engineer. The local structural engineer is the one who is going to do the calculations to make sure it meets the local building code. And as long as that structural engineer does what they need to do to seal and certify the design, and when you push it through the permit process, the organization or the government agency that processes the permit, they will sign off on that. And that's definitely something we've been able to figure out here on Guam, right? The second barrier is, or not even barrier, but second question I always get is it insurable? And the reason why that question is important is because if it's not insurable, then therefore it's not financeable, right? And even if I could get, so here in Guam, the average cost of a home here, the median cost is $420,000, right? Even if I were to apply, right, stateside I said it was 70%. Here on Guam, we don't know what that difference is, right? It's because there's a lot of other factors for this market. But even if we're able to get it down by 30%, I mean, we're still looking at like 200 some $1,000. You know, who walks around with 200 some $1,000? If you want to buy a house, it needs to be financed, right? In general. And so, but in order for you to go to a bank and say, I want to finance this property, the bank needs assurances that that property can be insured. And because it's in their minds new and there's no established building codes, like how do you define that, right? Or what does that look like? And what I could tell you is, since I've been, you know, kind of dealing with this here on Guam, all the insurance companies, they're like, as long as the structural engineer signs and seals that, they're good. And what they mean by that is when a design is approved, right, and printed, in order for an insurance company to insure it, they have their own structural engineers, right? So all insurance companies have their own underwriting, right? And so they will have their own structural engineers, and they're going to look at the reports. So that structural engineer who submits the designs for the permit, they're going to be putting their stack of reports showing, you know, what processes they did to test the strength of the cement so that it's not a safety hazard, right? So so those are the two things that kind of happen, and not necessarily simultaneously, but structural engineer does the designs, does their calculations, put it through the permit process. The insurance doesn't really come in until you're actually going through financing. So that's much later. But again, even at that part of the process, that insurance company is going to be referring back to that structural engineer using their structural engineers in the underwriting process.
Awesome.
that-
Wow.
Thanks, Ann. I have one more follow-up question. I'm going to steal the time here.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
for
go
the
for it.
listeners who are listening and they're like, I love this, I want to be a part of it, what is the best way for them to go about it? Because I know you're still working on kind of like getting this mainstream, but if they have money and they want to be a part of it, what do you recommend for them to like start that process, or where to
Yeah.
go?
Yeah, no, thank you. So there are, so I'll cover it in 3 different ways. So the first opportunity is, I mean, obviously I've already gone through some, like a year's worth of due diligence in learning this technology and how apply. I'll be the first one to tell you, I am not a technology expert. I'm an entrepreneur, which means I'm very focused on the problem and how to solve that problem. And so when I got introduced to this technology, it was very clear to me that this is not the solution, but it is a solution, and it solves a lot of the problems here in Guam for this market in many different ways. So so the first opportunity for everyone who wants to get involved is I'm actually I'm in the stage where we're getting ready to raise capital, the first round of capital for this company. So I would say if that's something you're interested in basically investing capital in a company like mine that's here on Guam, that's one opportunity. The other opportunity is with Mudbots itself. So Mudbots is their model is almost like a franchise where you can have exclusive rights to a certain market. Like for example, with our company, we have exclusive rights for Guam and Micronesia, so this region, right? And so right now, stateside, I think Mudbots is, the last I checked, and it has been a few months, they were at 8. So this technology is only in 8 out of the 50 states. So if you're an entrepreneur and you're like, hey, I want to be a veteran-owned business in construction using this technology, there is a lot of room for you to be able to get into that space. And if that's an opportunity you would want, I think there's two ways we can go about it. You can go directly to Mudbot. You could go to their website and go, create an account and try to go through their vetting process. That is a way. Another way is I can introduce you. So the person you saw in the all those videos was actually, especially the one with the strength, right, with the sledgehammer. That's James Lyman. He is the CEO of Mudbots. And what I want to share with you guys about him is that he is, he's just an incredible guy. His upbringing was actually in the construction industry. So he grew up doing construction. And then when he became an adult, he was in robotics. And so the printers that you see today are literally a manifestation of his life's work. And the reason why he got into this is because he does a lot of missions. So he would go to like Africa or Brazil, like his children would go and do these missions. And what he was seeing and experiencing is he was seeing substandard living, right? Like you go to places that are remote. I mean, it's literally safety hazards like shacks. And he was like, gosh, how is it that we could do all these things with what we're trying to do in space and we can't even build safe housing, here on Earth? And so he went about this, again, taking from his life's work and creating this technology. And he was in R&D. So I think 2017 is when he started. I think he was in R&D for about 2-3 years, and it was all self-funded. So he poured his life savings into this to get it to work. And now he's really, there's many other manufacturers in this space. Some of the names that you'll hear are Icon, Perry, Wasp, but Mudbots is definitely number one in my book. I think numbers wise, it probably is, like if you look at the industry numbers, they're probably pretty up there as well. But I would tell you who James is and the things that he's doing. They're an absolute leader in this space, and I think they'll always be up there just because of how they think and how they go about how they want to do this process. So I share all of that to let you know how much I know James. So if you want an introduction to James, I can be your connector.
Wow.
And then I think those are really the two main ways. So hopefully I didn't go too off on a tangent, but yeah, those are the two ways. If someone wants to get
great. That's a great question. Thank you so much, everyone. Again, if there is something that you think of later, at the end, we're going to have our email. You can always email us at any time, and we will definitely follow up with you. At this time, we are going to continue with our presentation. Hanging there for with us. We just have a couple more slides. Please help us to tailor our presentation to you. So go ahead and complete the survey. I think Dane put it on the chat, and if you guys wouldn't mind to share it again, that would be awesome. That's going to help us to kind of know what do you want to know more of, and us tailoring our themes and topics to your interests. So please make sure you give us that feedback. We are getting ready for our 2025 events, guys. And this is a sneak peek for what we are going to have, from how to navigate foreign income tax to our highlight of the event, which is the 2025 Asia Pacific Real Estate Investing Summit in Guam, to how to finance real estate in Japan. So please, you want to follow us in Facebook, go and save that link on YouTube so you stay connected with us, as that's where we share most of our information. And before I give a little more, I know we would do that during our closing remark, but Ann, thank you so much for this amazing presentation. To me, again, I'm so excited to hear all of that. The questions were amazing, guys. And it's just mind-blowing, what you think, and you go like, well, I think I already know a lot. You go like, oh, no, here it's something new. And so thank you so much for your willingness to share all of this good information with us. And again, this is our Facebook page. This is how you can search for our Facebook name. So please stay connected with us. we are looking for hosts, friends. So if you wanna join our amazing team, please, you're in Japan or Korea, or anywhere else, and you wanna join us, please, we're looking for hosts in Misawa, Camp Sama, and Sasebo, in Korea, Kumsen, and Camp Walker in Camp Carroll. So if you know anyone that has interest in real estate and would like to join our team, please let them know that we're looking for more hosts. Again, the highlight of next year is going to be our real estate investing summit. It's going to be in Guam. So if you ever dream of going to check out Guam and you also want to join the event, it's going to be amazing. Last year, 2 of our team members, Dane and Wei, joined. So maybe if they want to share their experience, how they enjoy it.
Yeah, I went last year. Definitely well worth it. You know, as I thought about going to Guam and how expensive Guam is, the conference, the summit, the networking, definitely paid for itself. So a lot of great information there, and I know next year is going to be even much better because you know, there's some lessons learned from this year. Even just the cultural tour that we did as part of the conference or the summit, that was amazing. Definitely, just that on it by itself was worth going to Guam. So definitely recommend it. So if you're able to go, I strongly suggest going.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
I would like to add something. So I think what makes this conference great and standing out is because the culture experience, which we can't find it elsewhere. I have no idea about what's going on Guam, but this time I get to know exactly what is going on Guam and the culture, what's look like, and get to experience it together with most people who attended the summit and the guest speakers. So it also helps to carry the conversation from the conference room to those excursion places, and we had a small group of attendees, which kept this whole environment very intimate. And by the end of day 2, I get to talk with almost everyone. Got to introduce myself and talk about real estate with everyone, including the guest speakers, all of them. So I think that's just awesome.
That's
Highly
awesome.
Mhm.
That's awesome. Thank you guys for sharing that. So we will be sharing more information on our Facebook group. So please make sure you stay connected. And then this is the end of our presentation, guys. Kim, Ann, thank you so much for sharing all of this information with us. Thank you to the team in the back. You know, like the Zoom meeting, the marketing. Thank you guys, and thank you to you all for being here and joining us today. So this will conclude our formal presentation. Sometimes we do hang out a little bit afterwards. So if you guys have any other question or want to just chat a little bit more, so we will stay here. Thank you guys.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me, for being such a captive audience with all those questions. So, and I'll hang back if anyone has any more questions. This helps me, right? Because again, your questions help me think through some of the things that I may not think about. Because most of what I've been doing is focused here on Guam. So hearing other perspectives, maybe some challenges happening in other markets, and how you think this technology could apply there. Those are all good things. So, I'll hang out.
I'm sorry, can I just made it clear that what I said, I didn't mean to say that so the group of people